It has been 10 years since Dragon Age fans last visited the world of Thedas. The end of Dragon Age Inquisition contained an intriguing hook for the future of the series that left myself and other fans eager to see what would happen next. With the exception of a teaser in late 2018, it was mostly just occasional murmurings when it came to the next installment of the series. And then finally, after 10 years of multiple staff changes, development resets, and a change from a much better subtitle of Dreadwolf, Dragon Age The Veilguard was properly revealed in the summer of this year, with a fall release being revealed soon after. And now the game is out, and I have played it, so let's take a look to see what Dragon Age Veilguard has to show for its long development journey. Dragon Age Veilguard picks up 10 years after the end of Inquisition. We take on the role of Rook. Rook is the newest member of a team put together by series veteran Varric in order to stop a ritual that will tear down the wall separating the physical world and the Fade, which is the realm of dreams. Rook, Varric, and the rest of the team manage to disrupt the ritual in question, but things go sideways and a pair of ancient elven gods get released from their long-standing prisons. From there, it's up to Rook to assemble a bigger team to combat the old gods and keep them from bringing about an even larger catastrophe. I rather enjoyed Veilguard's story. I think a lot of the main story missions with the big substantial moments were really well done, and those big story moments were held together with side content that felt meaningful. There are about 6 main zones that the party travels back and forth from throughout the story, and I think the side content did a really good job of giving each area a substantial story hook that would continue to develop as time went on. Treviso had the Antivan Crows trying to break the Antom occupation of the city. Minrathos had the Shadow Dragons resistance force waging its underground battle against the Venatori cult. And the Navaran Necropolis was goth as all get out. The arcs of these areas would play out concurrently with the main story. I found this approach to be pretty complementary to how the main story was structured. It kept me from feeling like I was stagnating in one place for too long, and by the end of the game I had become thoroughly invested in turning things around for each area. And I had found myself liking the secondary characters such as Taya and Viago, or Evka and Antoine, as much as I did the main party. Moving on to the main party, I think the team in Veilguard was really good. I think the thing that this group has going for them is that by the end of the game, all of them really did feel like friends. In the previous games, it always felt like the group would have certain people that buddied up to each other, but wouldn't be bothered one way or the other if other party members had perished. I really liked them all individually as well. My favorites were Nev, Harding, and Emmerich. But this is the first Dragon Age game where I actually mixed up my party throughout most of the playthrough, rather than just deciding to bring my favorites with me on every mission. They all bring something interesting to the table and have a fun dynamic with Rook and each other. The center of each of their internal conflicts comes down to being split between 2 paths or identities. Nev is deeply cynical but won't stop trying to do good, even if she doesn't think it will last. Emmerich is a necromancer who is profoundly afraid of dying. Tosh is a Kunari who is caught between the Ravani culture that they live in and the Kunari culture that their mother had taught them. Balara is an elven historian who has to unpack the fact that the gods her culture worshipped are evil. Everyone in the group has an internal struggle like this, and it was really compelling to help them work through it and see how these struggles overlapped and bounced off of the other party members. I also really enjoyed Rook as a protagonist. They land closer to how Hawk was in Dragon Age 2, where they are mostly a defined character, and your dialogue options serve to color in the page, so to speak, as opposed to Origins, where you could just be a total menace to society if you chose to. I don't mind this approach though, I think it works for the story, both as a means to make Rook an effective leader for the party, and as a foil to Solus. Solus positions himself as a lonely figure in this tragic narrative, where he's the only one who can fix Thedas because everything is his fault, so he alone must be the one to undo the damage. Rook is often pretty intellectually dim, but also very emotionally intelligent, and is powered by the support of their friends and their desire to do right by them, and I think it makes for a compelling dynamic between the two. Dragon Age Veilguard takes a much more action RPG-leaning approach to its gameplay than the previous games have. I'm sure this ruffled the feathers of some purists, but I found Veilguard's combat to be the most engaging in the series. I played as a rogue, so I can't speak to what it's like for the other classes, but I really enjoyed how my class played. The basic moveset was pretty much what you would expect: light combo, heavy combo, dodge, and a ranged option. When you add the special moves that you can do with the meter, it provides a little more razzle-dazzle. I think the thing that really clicked for me was how much each element of the combat feeds into itself. My meter was tied to what the game called momentum, and it was built up by doing damage in succession. This meant that if I took damage during a fight, my meter would be penalized slightly. This encouraged better play on my end, since if I was rock solid at perfect dodges or parrying, I would build up my momentum that much faster. It was a very aggressive risk-reward type of playstyle. If I tried to be too methodical, I would be really slow to generate any meter, and damage output would suffer. And if I went in guns blazing and got hit too often, I would also fail to generate any momentum. There were so many abilities or passives in the skill grid that would feed into this playstyle. One of the buffs I could get was called Adrenaline, which would activate after 10 consecutive hits. When it was active, the momentum meter would fill up substantially quicker, but if I got hit, the Adrenaline buff would go away. Eventually, I unlocked the ability to have the Adrenaline buff stack, which would give me a little bit more of a margin for error, all the while unlocking abilities and weapons that inflict a myriad of different statuses on my opposition. One point of contention I saw before the game came out was the lack of active control of your party members. I was not bothered by this change because the only time I was taking active control of somebody else in the prior games was if my character had died. I actually think that the way the party members were implemented was pretty effective. You can give each of them commands either in real time like you would when you're using an ability, or you can pull up a radial menu if you need a second to think about what you want them to do. Each party member can also inflict or detonate a status effect as well. The way that works is if Rook were to hit an enemy with a move that causes Sundered, I can go and tell Nev to cast a spell that would detonate that status and do a large chunk of damage to the targeted enemy and sometimes surrounding enemies as well. I found this to be a pretty effective compromise between only having control of Rook while still giving everyone else a presence in the fight. One of my favorite gameplay moments during Veilguard was encountering a level 50 dragon fight at the conclusion of a side quest. I want to say I was in the level 31 to 33 range. Despite being dramatically underleveled for this encounter, I gave it a shot anyway, since I really didn't feel like letting that thread dangle. And to the game's credit, I was able to succeed at the fight. I did not just get comedically stomped into the dirt. Sure, it was a tough fight and took me longer than it would have if I had just come back later, but I really like that through careful play and effective use of my party members, I was able to pull off a victory like that. Dragon Age Veilguard has a lot of striking visuals. I think the environments are what sing to me the most. Whether it's the lush and ethereal look of the Arlathan forest, the tropical coastline of Ravane, or the absolute blight-filled misery of the Hossberg wetlands, each area felt distinct and like a legitimate locale that would exist within the world of Thedas. This in turn made them much more enticing to explore. I think the character designs are all rock solid as well. The character creator in this game is easily the best one yet, and I was able to make Rook my favorite looking protagonist of the series so far. All of the other main characters, such as Nev, Emmerich, Lucana, Stavrin, and so on, all manage to convey what they're about while also standing out from the faction or area that they are representative of. The only things I found to be kind of hit and miss were the enemy designs and some of the armors. As far as the enemy designs go, it just felt like there were a lot of them that felt samey. Like the Antom Reavers barely felt different from the bigger Darkspawn, and even some of the bigger classes of Darkspawn didn't feel that different from each other. The sound design and voice performances in this game were fantastic. One of the first distinct things I noticed about the sound of this game was the first instance of a blighted area. Everything in the organic tendrils sounded so wet and sloshy in a way that provided the appropriate amount of discomfort. All of the combat abilities and attacks were accompanied by sound effects that were immensely satisfying. I think I used the exploding dagger move just because I really liked how it sounds. There were so many impressive voice performances in this game. Everyone got a fair number of moments to stand out. I really enjoyed Alex Jordan as the voice of my Rook. Ali Hillis's performance as Harding went a long way towards her being one of my favorite party members. Ji Young Han did a great job at bringing Balara's nervous intellectual energy to life. And Zach Mendez did a great job at portraying Lucanus's suave professionalism. And everyone else in the party was backed up by performances that were just rock solid as well. If you like the same things about Dragon Age that I do, or if you like action RPGs in general, then Dragon Age Veilguard is a must-play. While I was doing my playthrough of this game, any time that I wasn't actually playing it, whether it was to go to work or to do something else, I could not wait to come back to it. Each game in the Dragon Age series is pretty different from the ones that came before it, and each comes with their own set of strengths and weaknesses. Dragon Age Veilguard is no different. It has the most engaging gameplay loop in the series, but it lacks some of the political intrigue from previous entries. The important thing to me is that it delivered on an enjoyable cast of characters that I was able to get invested in, and the setting and plot worked as a great vehicle to deliver the story of those characters to me.